Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2019 career mode, episode number 38 today for the Russian Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But heading into Sochi, then we have one measly upgrade on the chassis side of things, and that means our life is just getting more and more difficult as we go through this season. You know, the last 6 races of this championship fight between myself and Lewis Hamilton, and it seems like both of us, both our teams, just want to make our lives harder because we go further down the order basically and kind of maintain that midfield position, if you will, on the R&D chart. Renault, Williams, McLaren, Racing Point now, Mercedes and Alfa Romeo then, and so we're pretty much right slap bang in the middle, and Renault continue to upgrade. That literary trajectory has not changed from that little upward curve there for Renault, and you got the likes of Williams still upgrading as well, maintaining position ahead of McLaren. It's all still very tight, to be fair though, from Williams down to Ferrari, and Ferrari now are the worst team on the grid as Toro Rosso and Red Bull both at least have some upgrades to improve, but it's all just continuing to be very chaotic in this entire field, and you just never know what's going to happen, because the R&D chart can say one thing, the real life track performance can say another, and then also quality to the race is definitely changed quite a fair bit. Some cars do have much better race pace, some others much better in over one lap, and it's just very, very tough, but it makes things very exciting for myself and Hamilton in this locked-in championship fight that I think is pretty much, I think you can already say, going to go down to the wire, just because it's so close, and now we've kind of lost the ability to fight for the race wins, because it looks like Renault definitely now wants, as long as they keep their act together and don't have any more DNS like Verstappen has done in his first few races of Renault, they'll pretty much be occupying the top 2 spots, you would say, I think. So it's going to be very interesting. So we continue on with this title fight, we continue on with the season, Russian GP. Let's go to qualifying and see how we do over one lap.
Welcome F1 fans, where qualifying will be starting in the next few minutes as the teams prepare to get out on track at the Sochi Autodrome here in Russia. And as we wait, poised for the start of what will hopefully be a thrilling qualifying, why don't you tell us, Anthony Davidson, about the things you can do to really get the most out of a car in a session like this?
Well, you're largely limited by the Parc Fermé regulations, of course. Back in the old days, pre-2004, you'd work on both a qualifying setup and a race setup over practice, and then swap them over after qualifying. So the race car was quite different at times to the qualifying car. Nowadays, though, you have to find a compromise that works for both. There are a few things that you can still adjust during the session, such as the differential, the brake bias, and the front wing angle, but that's about it. So it's more about optimizing what you do have and adapting your own style to suit the track conditions.
So joining in on the very last sector of Sochi here, the off-camber chicane, hoping the car goes pretty well here. Obviously the long back straight and the main pit straight should be pretty good for our cars. We're still pretty decent in a straight line. Williams have taken the kind of top spot on the engine side of things, but I think we are still second best on the grid in terms of pure engine power. So the car should have some decent pace. It is still very slippery in straight line with all the drag reduction updates we've done. And in fact, we probably need to put more downforce on the car, actually thinking about it towards the end of the season, because that's the only upgrades we have left on the R&D tree are some downforce upgrades and some DRS upgrades. So maybe we need to think about that after this Grand Prix. But we go through into Q2 then. Thankfully, no dramas with us in Q1 yet. But, with the way things are going in the R&D, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually right at the end of the season at Abu Dhabi, maybe Mercedes and Alfa Romeo as a whole, us 2 teams, are maybe even struggling to get out of Q1 maybe, if everyone keeps on upgrading so rapidly here. But we get through into the top 10 shootout. Raikkonen makes his way through. Bit of a discrepancy in the pace there between myself and Kimi. Let's see how, though, it goes in the top 10 shootout there. A little bit deep into turn 2 there with some understeer, so maybe some time to find there on the exits. We now swing through turn 3 at the moment. Lucas Weber on the top of the timesheet right now. Will be obviously a straight fight between, I'm guessing, Weber and Verstappen for pole position, you would say. But saying that, Mercedes can always pull out a kind of a trick in their bag, especially Lewis Hamilton's AI, and also Williams were pretty rapid actually last race, you've got to remember, so we've got to watch out for that as well. So we're coming through now the last 2 corners there. Verstappen at the moment has taken provisional pole position. We're right in the middle of the session here, so a little bit awkward as we go very wide and go P10. It's a horrendous lap actually, so understeer in the first sector, understeer in the last few corners, and so that just didn't go well. We do make it out for a second lap. It was very fine. Literally, the timer has already ticked, the checker flag's already fallen, so we didn't time that amazingly, but we made it work. We're still through here, and we have exponentially improved. You can see purple in the first sector, so much better there. Green in the second, but we've lost some time here in the end of the second sector into the last. Verstappen's still on for pole position. We're across the line. It's been a big improvement for us, but how much so? It's going to be up into P6, and thankfully, we do get ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who surprisingly for me is down on Valtteri Bottas there. So in a time of the season where Hamilton needs to be performing for his sake, he is not doing such a good job compared to Valtteri Bottas. But saying that, it's very, very tight actually in terms of lap times there. Raikkonen then behind Hamilton for a sandwich there. But obviously, surprise, surprise, top two being Renault, and then Williams and Magnussen doing bits there in third place. But at least we've got ahead of Lewis, so we've done half the job. Time for the race. Let's go to the grid.
Good afternoon from Sochi as we prepare to get underway for the Russian Grand Prix. The championship battle has some time to go yet, but still expect no quarter to be given here on this circuit that made its debut in 2014 and has already seen some classic racing. It's time to go racing then in the Sochi Autodrome, where the long run down to the heavy braking zone at turn 2 is one of 2 DRS zones around this 3.6 mile circuit. The other, of course, down into turn 13. 18 corners make up a lap here today, with an average speed somewhere in the region of 130 miles an hour. Joining me for the Grand Prix once again is Anthony Davidson. They must be starting to feel the pressure at this point, Ant, surely. There's a real shot at the title on the cards here, but one error at the wrong time, well, that could throw it all away.
Of course, there's never a good time to make mistakes, but it will feel 10 times worse if it happens at such a critical point of the season. Let's hope this contest is settled where it should be, on track, wheel to wheel.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he starts from pole position, with Lucas Faber alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Magnussen, Bottas, the engineer, and Hamilton, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Leclerc, and Devon Butler, Vettel, Stroll, Lando Norris, and Hulkenberg. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Perez, Albon, George Russell and Roman Grosjean. Gasly and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So it's all going to be sunny skies here for the race in Sochi, and it's going to be a pretty straightforward race for us, obviously, here with a one-stop soft to the medium tyres. Might get a bit overcast towards the end, so that might change the track temps a little bit, but tyre wear-wise, tyre graining's not really an issue. It's just a case of trying to keep the rear tyres maybe in check a little bit at the end of the stints, but then also just trying to use the fuel and ERS quite delicately. The fuel is very tricky to manage around here, especially so I remember, and also the ERS, trying to save some in Sector 1 for the end of the lap here, but we've moved up one free position up into P5, along with Hamilton and Raikkonen due to an engine penalty there. So here we go to 5 red lights from P5 on the grid for the Russian Grand Prix. Lights are out and we're underway. It's an average start for us compared to Valtteri Bottas. There has to be expected versus the AI, but it's a good enough one to see us ahead of Hamilton still. Raikkonen's done a good job to jump Hamilton on the top left. You can see he's got ahead into P6. We try and find some space on the outside of turn 2 of Valtteri Bottas, as now Magnussen has gone down the outside of Verstappen to the inside of turn 3 and is battling for the race lead, and the Williams car has got it. The Dane man has got the lead of the Russian GP. Verstappen has to yield and is down to second place in the Renault, and Lucas Weber third place there. Absolutely amazing stuff for us. It's great. It's a great start as we've got ahead of Bottas. Raikkonen has also got ahead of Bottas. So right now it's a Williams, 2 Renault, 2 Alfa Romeo and 2 Mercedes. All very Noah's Ark after the Williams car, but as we move on to lap number 3, Verstappen will have other ideas. DRS enabled now, and he goes for the move in the Renault, tries to take the lead back, and I think that should be him booked in. I'd be surprised if the Williams can hang on for the race lead for so long here, and Magnussen does get shoved off a little bit with the elbows out from the Dutchman, and he's up into P1, but great stuff there. You know, 2 of the most aggressive drivers, I guess you could say, on the grid, battling for first place there in some very unorthodox cars, battling for the lead. Absolutely amazing scene too, and that's how you know it's the F1 game. But yeah, Verstappen's taking the lead, and so it's 1-3 for Renault. We maintain that P4 fast after the Grand Prix right now, actually, as it stands, so pretty good and clean air. But actually, as it stands now, Raikkonen started to close up a little bit, and I'm losing touch with the top 3 there, so that might just be the last we see of the 2 Renaults and Williams. Obviously, I mentioned Williams are looking very strong these days, and so it can kind of keep up with at least keeping Weber at bay, Magnussen's car. And meanwhile, for us, we're having some really poor traction there, and on low ERS mode, Raikkonen mugs us off there on that right-hand side there. Just didn't get a great exit. I didn't didn't think the low ERS was going to be that dramatic off that exit. I did compromise my line, to be fair, though, as well. And so we're down to P5 and Raikkonen's up into P4. And just I have a little inkling, to be fair, that Raikkonen actually is feeling very punchy and has some better race pace than me today at the Russian GP. Just the way he overtook both Hamilton and Bottas at the start of that Grand Prix on the opening lap, and just now there with that overtake, I think he's got some good speed and might have a good fight for me today, and that's going to be quite nice because it's quite a rarity for me so far in this career mode to fight Raikkonen too much there. We try and make a move to the inside of turn 2, doesn't work out on lap number 5. At least we're keeping the two Mercs quiet for now. Bottas still ahead of Hamilton, so that's perfect for me to have Valtteri ahead of Hamilton, and not only to be ahead of Hamilton outright as well. That's just good news for me. But we move on to the end of lap 5 on the back straight here. DRS open down the inside. We go into under the bridge. This will be side by side, but we'll get the move done. Raikkonen can't really pull it through side by side on the left hand side there, and so we're going to get P4 before we enter the chicane. Magnussen, meanwhile, now you can see in the top left there, and just about as you can see him in the distance, is down to P3 now. So it's a 1-2 for Renault once again, and all balance has been restored for the Renault boys, I guess. But once again now onto lap number 7. Raikkonen comes knocking again on the outside of turn 2. We're defensive on the inside line. We just do enough to pinch him on the next little left kink before turn 3, and we maintain that P4 position ahead of the Iceman there. But Bottas now and Hamilton are closing right up to Raikkonen, so we've got a big train of 4 cars here, including myself. So it's only a matter of time before something has to break, and so Raikkonen around the outside, and this might just be it, as we're now fully side by side through that right-hander now. Raikkonen's got the speed to pull it through on the off-camber now, left and then right at this chicane. Raikkonen gets it. We go tight on the line, go early on the brakes, trying to get a better exit, and we do get that better exit there, and we shoot through with better acceleration now to the inside, the second last corner. Little bit of contact there, tiny bit of a bump on Raikkonen, and we get that through. He might not be too happy with that as we go through the last corner, and we maintain track position. That Ferrari as well is also joining the party. I think that's Charles Leclerc as well, so we've got a 5-car train, and so really you can see I don't have the race pace now. You know, it was looking okay in quali, maybe a little bit, but now the race pace has gone, and so we go defensive into turn 2, trying to cover off the inside line, just make sure we maintain position. At this point now, I've stopped caring where Raikkonen is. If he gets overtaken by the Merc, he gets overtaken by the Merc, but I just need to try and keep ahead. But look at this, we snake through. It really literally is like basically a nose-to-tail train here, which is a little bit embarrassing for me in terms of the race pace, but also the tyres maybe are going a little bit off at this stage. We're only maybe 2-3 laps away from the pit stop phase, and again on that right-hander, Raikkonen has a great exit there. That time, I don't think I couldn't quite see. I don't think I was on low ERS there, but again, Raikkonen just gets a great exit. As we move on to lap number 8 then, Bottas is the one behind us still, so he maintains that position against Hamilton. We have another go maybe at Raikkonen onto lap number 9 through the last corner. We'll have DRS. We've saved up enough ERS on that previous lap, and so we're up into hot lap mode, then to overtake mode as we go into 7th gear. Open DRS, not using rich mix though right now because I don't have too much fuel to play around with, and I want to save some for later on in the Grand Prix. But we gain into turn 2, but just not enough on Raikkonen, even with a little lock up into turn 2. We just don't have enough oomph there, and I think that might be our fight fully done with Raikkonen. As we go to lap 11 now, a few laps later, Hamilton has overtaken Bottas, and now he comes in for a pit stop. I thought about coming in, but I thought, you know what, let's try and do the opposite to Hamilton, stay out there, get fresher tyres for the second part of the race. I know the tyre wear is going to kick in a little bit, I'm already losing pace, but if I get fresher tyres for the end of the Grand Prix, I might be in a better stead. And so we continue on for another lap because Raikkonen unfortunately comes in. Obviously there's no way for me to tell him and to ask him to politely go and continue for one more lap to allow me to come in, so he takes priority there, so we have to go for 2 more laps than our indicated pit stop. So I've lost a lot of time, I will fully admit, but it's going to come back to us. I believe, have faith. The fresh tyres are going to come in clutch, and I think we should be able to still pull this back through, overtake any cars we lose, but we definitely probably will lose some positions here to, if not Hamilton, and also Bottas as well. I wouldn't be surprised there, but Leclerc comes in with us there, so at least Ferrari have joined us, but that's maybe how you know I've maybe made a bit of a gamble, and maybe a little bit of an error, because Ferrari have joined us on that same strategy, and generally speaking, let's be fair, Ferrari not the ones to follow on strategy, and actually, to be it's got even worse for me, because Leclerc has managed to jump me then in the pit stop, despite myself having the best pit stop efficiency I can have on the contract there. It was not quick enough for Ferrari, and Ferrari have jumped us there. We've also been overtaken by Bottas. There goes Vettel as well. So we've been overtaken by 4 cars then, both Mercs, both Ferrari cars. Vettel now goes down the inside of Bottas there. It's now going to be a side-by-side battle between the Finn and the German there. Can we make it 3 wide into turn 3, straight away out of the pit lane there into a battle. We squeeze through just and overtake both cars there, so a crucial overtake for us to get in clean air, but a very nice one indeed as well. 3 wide through turn 3, very nice indeed. But now we have to chase after Leclerc, and then the next car up will be Hamilton, and then you've got Raikkonen. So 3 cars ahead of us. It's time to get our head down, use these fresher tyres and put them to work. But of course, Leclerc has the same set of tyres, same lap he pit on, but we move on to lap 15. We do have the pace of a Ferrari, the worst car on the grid apparently. He's still fighting here in the top 10, but we should have an easy time to overtake him in a straight line towards turn 2. And Bob's your uncle up into P7, and now we use this clean air to chase after Hamilton, and Hamilton in turn is chasing after Raikkonen. So by the time we get to lap 16, look at this, Hamilton right up the gearbox of Raikkonen, and these two have actually been side by side a little bit here on the previous lap, lap 15, so they've been fighting so hard, they've lost so much time. I've not really gained too much time there. You can see Leclerc is pretty much the same gap he was before that previous clip. We've both just gained on Hamilton and Raikkonen because they've slowed each other down, so it's not necessarily that I've gone faster, they've just gone slower because they've been battling. Obviously not going to complain. So if you come through lap 16 onto lap 17, 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix then, and so this might be the lap we get it done and overtake Hamilton and potentially Raikkonen as well if we're lucky. Here we go, DRS open there through turns 1, DRS open for Hamilton as well, but we have the better straight line speed on the left hand side. We go on the outside for turn 2, that's going to give us the better inside line of course for turn 3, but before we even get to the apex there, we're going to try and squeeze Hamilton out. He's going to ride us quite hard there, but we maintain that position, cut across him, and we're going to be booked in for P5, and now we go chasing after Raikkonen for P4 in this Grand Prix. So the new tyres, the fresher tyres, 2-lap fresher tyres, they're definitely working out and paying some dividends right now as we move on to lap number 18. We nearly make a move to the inside of turn 2, thought better of it though because didn't have quite the overspeed to make the dive bomb, but into turn 3, Raikkonen wide, compromises his line, we have a little bit of space to work with there, we try to make a move, oh, Raikkonen, very, very close. What on earth is he doing there? As now our DRS failed at the exact time we make some contact with Kimi, so that's not too great. So that's going to hamper us of trying to overtake Raikkonen with no DRS available to our car, and also might allow Hamilton to come right back into the fold here with this fight. He's right up the chuff, but that could have been very nasty indeed. Turn 3, you know, we rubbed nearly complete our sidewall, complete tyres on the front right to his rear left, and that could have been a nasty spin for Kimi into the wall and also myself there. So count ourselves lucky that I kind of backed out that last minute, just thought better of it, of keeping my foot in there. But yeah, so Kimi definitely wants to keep the position, you would say, and go very defensive. So I mean, to be fair, he's had the better pace, so I can see why he wants to try and fight very hard to maintain the position. But you can see now the lack of DRS hampering us there, unable to really try and make a move on Kimi there, and Hamilton just keeping at bay with overtake mode. But onto lap 19, we get a great exit of turn 1, and so who needs DRS? This is a pure natural overtake, maybe to the inside. He locks up there. We pressurise Raikkonen into a mistake potentially, so this is an organic fight. This is no DRS involved. A very nice battle to turn 2, but Raikkonen ultimately has the better line. We go a little bit wide to turn 3, so we have to try and cut in and defend against Hamilton there, so not able to make it work once again for the second time now in the turns 2 to 3 section there, but we continue to fight on and chase on to put the pressure on Kimi as well as Hamilton and onto Leclerc as well. I'm surprised about him keeping up the pace as we go through into sector 2. Kimi slow! Oh no, we made some contact with Raikkonen. What on earth was Raikkonen doing there? He slowed up so much so, I think he had a mechanical issue, and the faintest of taps sent our car wide despite going completely off the throttle. There was too much momentum through that right-hander, and we've been spewed into the wall. Red front wing on the front right there. What was Kimi doing for the second time this race? He parks up there. He's out of the Grand Prix. I think it's a mechanical issue for Kimi Raikkonen. He retired from the Russian Grand Prix, but that was the worst. If you thought about any corner at this circuit, that was probably one of the worst corners to have a failure at on the exit of the apex, because you go through there with such momentum, you don't even have to be on the throttle, you just carry so much speed rolling the car through, and there was such a little fine margin of contact. But with the kind of contact system in this game, the kind of side pod to side pod rubbing just sent my car straight through on the right. No amount of kind of turning opposite angle, turning into the corner, turning into the spin rather, helped me out there on the wall, and so we break our whole front right, front wing there. Can't even make it into the pit lane properly there with the lack of downforce and understeer, and so that has just gone from what was looking like a pretty decent Grand Prix for us, ahead of Hamilton, Raikkonen there up as well, so good points for Alfa Romeo, to now 1 DNF, and this is surely no points for us today. We're so late in the Grand Prix now, and we have to make an extra pit stop for a front wing change. New tyres obviously come, that's a given. Onto soft tyres we'll go on to. DRS is still broken here as well at this stage of the GP. Absolute calamity, disaster here at Sochi in the race where I thought, okay, we get some good points on Hamilton. Once again, extend the lead in the Drivers' Championship. Not meant to be now, and it's instead going to be a double no points finish for Alfa Romeo as we come out in P19, last place effectively now as Raikkonen's P20 out of this GP. And all we have to do now is just try and race for some pride now in the remaining 7 laps here. Lap 21, closing up to Pierre Gasly, who's having a torrid time in the Red Bull car here. So obviously, well, I mean, that's kind of almost resembling real life in a way, isn't it? As we come through now onto the right-hander, DRS available for us now once again. Doesn't help me out too much. I couldn't care less we have DRS now as we overtake the Frenchman there up into P18. Absolutely amazing stuff, isn't it? And so now we'll continue on to push hard for 6 laps, and we will eventually catch up to Antonio Giovinazzi, the Italian, in a Haas. But it's a gloomy day in Sochi, and the weather is definitely reflecting my mood right now in the cockpit here. A bit of pathetic fallacy for you as we go down the inside, round the outside of the left-hander under the bridge. But Gio is giving a real tough fight there to me, actually. So I don't know if I still have some damage maybe in the car there. Surprised I can make the move stick to the inside. We eventually get it done into P17 there, but that will be where we go. And we go no further as we move on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen has won the Russian Grand Prix. It's going to be some points for Hamilton though, and no points for us today at the Russian GP. It's a race to forget for the entire team, really.
Okay, we're all a bit gutted with that result, but let's work hard and we'll get it together for the next race.
Another win for the team at Renault today. Really impressive stuff. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, I know it's a bit of a boring answer, but the truth is they simply had the best speed package on the day, and a driver who knows how to take advantage of that. It doesn't matter how much time you spend poring over the stats and planning strategies if you can't keep the pace, and our winner today showed they could do both.
As we can see, it's time for the podium, and I can see the Renault team underneath our commentary box going crazy as their drivers walk out. It was a great win, and it means a great deal to this team.
So there we have it then, a 1-2 for the Renault cars. Magnussen a brilliant P3 in the Williams, but there goes Hamilton up into P4, gifted that position obviously because he was P6 and we were running P4 and 5 ourselves. It's a great race for Ferrari as well, to say they were meant to be the worst car on the grid going to that race as well. So all round a bit of a crazy race, and a lot of gifts around the entire top 10 there, apart from maybe the top 3. And so we lose the position to Hamilton. We're back down to 2nd place, and after the last 2 races of gaining points on Hamilton, we finally get hit with a punch back from Lewis, I guess, and from the F1 gods, if you will. And it's a big punch for us, as that's a lot of points to make up once again. Obviously, we've come back from further back. We were chasing a lot more points beforehand, but I can't bank on something else happening once again. So we're going to have to grind through this. Japanese GP as well next up. That's usually quite tough. They are very consistent around Suzuka, so I just don't know how that's going to pan out there. But we just have to go again, then reset and forget about this one, basically. But nonetheless, keeps things very interesting, keeps everything on the toes. But we go through to the end of this Grand Prix. Contract negotiations do. Obviously, the team are pretty much in love with me, so I can ask for the best contract, level 3 and everything. Easy objective on the contract goals. And so into the development then. We don't have too much R&D points to play around with, so we go for a major weight redistribution. We've already got 1 on the bounce as well. So at the moment, 2 chassis upgrades on the way on the next 2 races it will be. But yeah, at the moment, I don't know, it just feels like we don't actually have too many R&D points, even though we're getting all the points for practice programs as well, simulating those. We just seem to not have enough to maybe keep up pace with the likes of Renault and whatnot, who I guess also do have some efficiency stuff on the department, I'm guessing, when they were rock bottom of the table. But yeah, it's feeling like a little bit of a losing battle against the rest of the grid of keeping up in R&D pace. But the good thing is at least Mercedes are with us and they're not keeping up as well, so we're kind of keeping level with them, which is the kind of only important thing really in this title fight right now with Hamilton. But guys, if you did enjoy nonetheless that topsy-turvy Russian GP, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are interested, subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been Alfa. Hope you enjoyed today. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.